Hello ladies and gents, Brew here, and now let's talk about the consequences of Pro Tour of Aether Revolt in Dublin. So what's happening with standards? Well, top 8 was dominant by aggro decks. We have 3 Mardus, 1 black-green Constrictor and 1 Giant aggro, which is kind of a mix of the two anyway, uh, if you think about it. This is the Paulo Vitor Domer de Rosa's list, but there were some variations between the builds of the deck, and we have shocks over extra fatal pushes in previous list, while some list I think played 4 fatal pushes main deck or something like that. Shock is basically a answer for Saheeli's deck, but right now I think push is just a much bigger of a deal, and you can always perhaps have shocks in the sideboard if you actually end up facing Saheeli's. But as for the main deck answers, Fatal Push is probably gonna be a bigger deal. And also had push in the main at the Pro Tour, really had to feel great. It's basically a 3.5 color deck, just like Louis said, because you have the blue splash from the sideboard, which you enable through Spires and the Caravans, the 3-mana vehicle, so that you can splash Rebukes and Rejection for Mirror and just Rebuke for whatever, against control perhaps. Saheeli was enemy number 1 coming into the Pro Tour. After the Pro Tour is probably Mardu, and to a lesser extent Black-Green. Green-White underperformed. It didn't actually show its greatness at the SG Opus anyway. So this is what we're gonna have. I don't know how just Saheeli will have to transform to actually answer vehicles now. It's already had Fumigates in the main, for example, and I don't know, perhaps Radiant Flames moving from sideboard to main deck. Well, it already had Fragmentize in the sideboard, so I don't know what can be actually done. You already have instant speed removals like lightnings, shocks, and stuff like that. Maybe just moving from counters to something else. Probably the Sneak main deck doesn't look as great anymore, even though it still counters removals and the vehicles. So it's hard to say. Maybe you want some more spot removal. And perhaps moving on, instead of using 8 slots in the deck for Guardians and Saheelis, you just add more removals and more counters and stuff like that, and just become basically a just good control deck. Maybe shifting focus away from combo would be a good idea. Getting on the sideboard is a good thing. Maybe it will shift to main deck, I don't know. It's probably better against black-green rather than vehicles. So black-green aggro, there were various builds of that deck. And people were saying that black-green is a bad matchup for vehicles, but as you probably read from the top 8 profiles of the top 8 players at the Pro Tour, some people said that, okay, it seems like black-green was supposed to be a bad matchup, but it was quite even. And with some tuning, you can address black-green with Mardu, and probably same is true for black-green as well. So you can probably adopt and just run more than 6 instance removals in the main deck. Harvester is pretty good in that matchup for sure. Here, Gonti was probably just for the Saheeli matchup, I think. Just more value. It's weird to see it here, actually. Kind of weird. I don't think Siphoneer is actually good right now, even though it has manas. But with so many shocks and fatal pushes around, I don't think it's great anymore. Um, Bestiary is still probably good against control. Yeah, I like that this deck, this build actually had most of the anti-control stuff in the sideboard, but you might want to actually probably swap Contis for fatal pushes or something like that for third and fourth. Moving on. This is the black-green deck from the guy that actually top-aided the event. And he had actually a couple of green flares in deck, which is kind of strange in the world of shocks and fatal pushes. So that's a bit strange, but maybe it's very decent against the Healy when it's not answered, because it quickly can become 4 power and then it can answer Planeswalkers relatively well. I don't think this list was actually good for the meta that ended up happening. It's just overall solid, but I don't see any like fine-tuning for the meta that ended up happening there. And fatal pushes in the sideboard, yeah, I don't think he was actually prepared for this Mardu madness. Then of course there's the 4-color version of Saheeli combo deck with all the different things considered, and much more value and much more grinding capabilities. Even Eldritch Evolution in the deck, which is really interesting. Ascent Flux to blink, I suppose, Hulks or Blazers or whatever. If you're playing 4-color and you have some tutoring in the form of Evolution or Traverse, I don't think I will really like all 4 Saheelis, so you might want to actually cut down on those. So I think if there is a playable Saheeli combo deck that can actually combat Black-Green and Mardu, it's probably some 4-color concoction. Otherwise, you're just going no combo Jeskai control. It's just that you can actually contest the board if you're 4-color, because with all the green stuff and all the value, you can actually fight on the ground and establish some board presence. And again, against like Jeskai control or Grease control, you can actually have some clock early on, which is, I think, pretty relevant. Grix is underperformed quite a bit, so I wouldn't be really excited about that deck. It's so clunky. Well, we now know the metagame a bit more about it, and where the top tier decks are standing now. So it might be a bit easier to prepare for decks like that. I mean, for the Grixis control to actually find the most efficient ingredients for the deck. There were all different kinds of decks at the Pro Tour, but diversity wasn't exactly there. Because you can go team wherever works, and just no combo, but just Ulamogs and Kozileks as the high end. Playing 4 Word of Invention is kind of weird in this deck, but I guess between combustions, I mean the implements, prism and stuff like that, probably okay. Plus you have this build have stationery in it as well, so card is actually very cheap. The card is actually very cheap in this deck. Soul-Tide Delirium Control is something that I think is the direction to move forward, or just Black-Green Delirium. If you really just want to answer Black-Green Aggro or Mardu. Not in line with the Blue Splash, because I don't think you gain a whole lot from that. Because like Gearhawks are awesome, and flashing them and searching them up is quite cute. But I think Black-Green Delirium is just probably gonna be much more safe and much more consistent, etc. Pretty funny to see overwhelming denial in this type of deck. Really love the card, but I don't see a great shell for it outside of maybe Blue-White Spirits, which can just cast 1/2 mana cost spirits at flash speed and stuff like that, and then denial as well to at surge cost of 2. But then again, in this deck you can go like Fatal Push or Grasp for 1 or 2 mana and follow it up by a hard counter that can be countered. But I think blue decks are gonna be on the downhill for now. Black-Red is a great deck right now, and I'll talk about that a bit more later. So let's move on to some interesting slides. So I really like Havasin. It's a 4 toughness, fleshy creature that if unanswered, if they like to trigger resolve, then you can basically eat their team with your team, and then actually if she stays on board and a turn has passed and instead of her they kill something else, it's always this trick of actually, you know, transforming her and kill their board. And it's really interesting. I think I would love to test, if I would be playing vehicles, I would actually play 1 or 2 in my 75 somewhere, because you already play in the sideboard a couple of Selfless Spirits against Fumigates and Radiant Flames. So I think in this creature battle, Avacyn is actually pretty solid and interesting. Then with always watching, what's interesting about it is that it makes your team bigger, and you become as effective on both on offensive line and defensive line. So it makes it hard for them to block, uh, and makes hard for them to attack you. So really love this card in this meta. Eldrazi, Slate Drowner Hope could be interesting, but the problem is that quite a few of them are a bit in the middle of the curve, so you need to run some mana acceleration or something, or some way to, you know, kind of ramp up. One way could be the so-called Eldrazi Charm, the one that makes a Scion. It's interesting because it can kill those Toolcraft exemplars, what inspectors, and so on. So I think that's actually quite okay. Another route is to actually go big and wide at the same time with different humans builds that are based around Lieutenant of Cuz. So that's another route. Then Thing in the Eyes blocks a lot of free power creatures from vehicles. It doesn't block Hardikirin, but oh well. And then if you can find a good build which plays a lot of 1/2 mana spells, then when Fling is flipped at their combat, is just so amazing. So I think underappreciated card in this metagame. Well, Stationary is of course like pretty solid. It's removal at instant speed, so I think Stationary will shine again, as well as cards like Linvala out of sideboards. Probably not main deck, I think. But yeah, again in 5 life, getting 2 flying bodies against that deck's probably gonna be pretty awesome. Then Gideon is quite alright. Mardu already played some themselves, and actually Gideon is quite alright against them. Of course, you need to watch out for Hardikirin, but outside of that, Gideon actually can help a lot in stabilizing the board, so a lot of decks should actually look at it one more time. And then some hidden gems like Void Grafter. 4 toughness is a big deal. Of course, there is Fatal Push and Disintegration and Grasp and stuff like that. And the trigger on Grafter doesn't help to protect itself, but you can protect something else from one of those removals, of which there are numerous kinds and giant amounts in every deck now, I think. It can block well, it's flashy, it protects a guy, so yeah, I think it feels like a kind of Avacyn type of card that doesn't have flying, but on the other hand, it's so cheap. There could be some kind of banned humans kind of deck. Well, not banned humans, but 3/4 color Tamiyo Haterator aggro deck. Speaking of Haterator, you can go some kind of uh, green-red ramp, I think, with Eldrazi's. So return is pretty good right now, I think. At instant speed cleans a bunch of free twos, and so on from Mardu. And when you get to kind of flashback it, then it cleans up a lot of stuff from black-green as well. World Breaker kills snares and vehicles and a bunch of other things. So it's all just about how you can actually ramp up and just stay alive for a while. Of course, you can use shocks, and Galvanic Bombardment is another card that probably should see more play now once again, because shock doesn't kill everything that matters, so healing matters less now. So shock will matter less now, and Galvanic can actually kill not just scroungers, but even sometimes, let's just say, the Hardicurin as well. Natural state is something that we will have to look at again because of Harvesters and Hardicurin and Snare and Scrounger. Just 1 mana at instant speed is actually amazing. The only big thing is that Fragmentize while sorcery speed, but it can kill something like Marvel, Panharmonicon, Reservoir, but I don't think that's all that relevant right now. So state is probably better if you play green actually. If you're not, then probably Fragmentize is your card of choice. Fail Push is of course amazing now, but then when we speak about Mass Removal, of course, there is Fumigate and Radiant Flames, but we should look at Flame Tendrils as well, because there are a lot of X2s in Mardu, there are some even in Black-Green, and you can couple it up with some Shock, let's say, if you're Black-Red mid-range or Giant mid-range or something like that. You can finish off the creature that doesn't straight ahead die from tendrils. And Exile is actually relevant. Exiling Scroungers is relevant. But you shouldn't actually focus too much on the Exile effects because right now it doesn't seem like it's gonna be that big. But if decks with that abuse Ishkana become popular once again, just like in the past season, then all the shrivels, snares, declarations, and stuff like that will become once again very big. And I think Ishkana and even cards like Kalates, because of lifelink and for toughness and ability to provide extra bodies to chump or trade with, they're much more relevant right now. So actually moving on, kind of old schoolish, say last season, Black-Green Delirium is gonna be in fashion once again. Then, okay, Eldrazi's are good not only because of the Drowner to tap their guys to actually push your damage through or to defend yourself, but because they're big, they're flashy, they provide value. Of course, they can kill Thought-Knots here with something and draw a card, and actually, they wouldn't even feel much about it, but think about a card like Reshaper. It can trade with a lot of their stuff, it can provide you another creature right into play, but then of course you have to build your deck in such a way that Reshaper not just draws you a card, but actually puts something into play, and not just a land. And I think if you manage to figure out the builds in that way, then I think your Mardu matchup is going to be okay. Giselle is pretty nice now. All the lifelinky, first strikey big bodies are pretty good right now, I think. Up to a certain point. The problem with Gisela is that if Ishkana is going to be a thing again, then kind of Gisela flies into Ishkana, but then with the Gideon emblem or always watching, then that's not a problem anymore, etc. Dark Dwellers are interesting because they can flashback, uh, removal, discard, card draw. Well, not so much card draw actually nowadays, but still a lot of value. And just 2 for 1ing Mardu, even in mid game, could be a route to stabilize if you can actually, draw some shocks, fatal pushes, stuff like that. Release of Gremlins is a card that I initially wasn't super hot on, but it grew on me gradually over the weeks. And yeah, once not just the Hulks, but the vehicles, the new ones became much of a thing. Then I realized that in the right deck, it's actually pretty good mid-late game value. Destroy something and get some 2/2 bodies. Sounds quite okay. Let's say destroying Hard Current plus a Scrounger for 5 mana and getting 2/2/2s. That sounds pretty good to me. Let's not forget about Lightning Axe, killing at instant speed hard occurring, and let's say discarding to Lightning Axe Temper, killing a Scrounger or whatever uh, X2, X3 body they haven't played that bothers you. Weaver of Lightning shouldn't be discarded either from the radar because at 4 toughness it blocks rather well. It doesn't block rather well hard occurring, unfortunately, even though this Weaver has Rage. But it does help you clear some of the smaller stuff. Um, so if you're playing blue-red spells, I think this is a card that you should put back into your sideboard because with Galvanic Bombardment and Sharks, you can actually start clearing the board pretty effectively. I'm making it solid. The only problem is the clause of you lose free life, so that's gonna be quite a liability nowadays because of how fast the Tier 1 decks are. But it deals with Chandra's, Gideon's, Hardy Curing, what have you. So if you make sure that your deck has a significant amount of life gain and enough of early drops, then I think it's a great card once again. And I know I've been talking about it before, but it doesn't hurt to remind you that it's still a thing, it's still a card, it just needs a shell. It's just that black-white axe decks haven't really picked up, but I think they could be a good answer. So some Abzan, Delirium, Abzan midrange, Super Friends is something I'll be really looking forward to testing, and I think it's a good choice. It all comes down to how you deck build, basically. There are all these puzzle pieces that you have to account for. Um, so yeah, Blahu Priest can be very cheap at Madness. Let's say you have free discard outlet on turn 2, and then turn 3 you can have this in play. Shoot down a guy, block something, block a free 2, basically eat it because it's a 4/4, and then you start attacking with it after you discarded those Lightning Axe and Fury Temper, and you start shooting down their stuff. Of course they can, fatal push then, or disintegration, but as long as you basically ate, kinda, with this priest, a couple of their creatures, you're fine. And while they're dealing with this, you can actually extend and expand your board more, so it's pretty good at racing, just a great tempo. I think this card should see more play now. Reservoir combo deck. Well, this slide is not only about it, but mainly. I think it's awesome, and I think it's one of the solutions for this meta. It just does so much, and so quickly. You just need to find the right build, and not get greedy, and just, play the deck, and polish it. Also, one card that is not mentioned here is the Crush Your Tentacles with 0 mana artifacts. You can cast it on 5 with Search and get 8/8 in addition to bounce and everything. I mean, all non-lands. Spire of Industry is spotted here because it allows your Reservoir deck to actually splash whatever color you want. Probably you want white for SRAM, but I don't think you actually have to. Because of Spire and some duels, you actually make Engulf the Shore much worse. And Engulf is actually a card that will let you buy not just one, but probably two turns against Mardu Vehicles. And it's just a great card to survive, basically. It's not like removal, it's not a fog, but it does a lot of things. And also, um, it can bounce the, what was it? Yeah, it can bounce your Ornithopters, so it can reset those. And if you run the Cranes, the 1/3 flyers, you can reset those too. So that's actually a small bonus that shouldn't be uh, overseen. Yeah, mutation is here because in that deck you kind of want some early cheap removal, even though you have Engulf and Crush and Barrel's expertise, but you might want mutation as well, at least in the sideboard. It's an option. It's also an option for some blue control decks, for a blue-black control deck based around Metallurgic Summons, which I think is a great card. You just need to make sure that they don't kill you too fast, and with summonings, you can just make it so that only creature that matters on the Mardu side of the board is the Hardicurin, everything, or Harvester. Everything else doesn't matter. Well, Flagship could matter, but it's just so slow for that matchup. Um, then you have Nebelgust, Herald, and Niblis of Frost. What I mean by showing you those two is that I actually think that even before Mardu, Blue-White Spirits was actually an interesting direction to be at, even though Blue-White Splash Scrounger new Flash Tempo deck might be more consistent, more reliable, but I think a bit less powerful at certain points, very specific matchups. I think Spirits have perhaps a bit better control matchup. I'm not exactly sure. That's my impression. I've been playing with the deck. I gave it to teammates to run at tournaments as well. We love it. Um, and with Heralds and Niblis probably out of the sideboard, you can contain Mardu and Black-Green, especially Black-Green with those two, because they usually don't go that wide, but their creatures become massive, enormous very quickly. And tapping few massive creatures with those is actually a very good plan, just to out-tempo them. Niblis also shines in all those spell stacks like blue-red spells with Thing and Dice and the Dynavolt Tower and stuff like that. Actually think blue-red spells might be okay right now because it's very dedicated, you have a lot of removal, and Niblis could even help you more out at the sideboard to stabilize. And now as for some weird choices. Responder and Aetherborn, just think about it. One has Flying and Vigilance, so it makes it pretty good at offense and defense. The stats are not particularly amazing. On the other hand, you have Aetherborn. It's that lifelink, so it basically trades with every ground guy, and it gains your life in the process. If you can find a way to pump it up, I don't know, maybe Constrictor slash Rishkar, um, then it could be really annoying for vehicles. Then don't forget about Judgment. I've been talking about discard outlets and just value from Madness. It's at Madness it's actually pretty sick because you can distribute the damage and it's just great menacing. At worst, it's just a 2-mana destroy guy on their side, pretty much, at sorcery speed. But at instant, it just becomes amazing. If you can ever madness it out on 5, just it's good value, I think. Could be even good outside the board from blue-red spells, I think, if they have actually enough of discard outlets, not just Lightning Axe. Don't laugh at me, but Furious Reprisal might be actually good, even though it's sorcery speed, but it could kill 2 creatures, or it can kill a creature and shoot down a Planeswalker. As a one-off, maybe in the sideboard, I think in certain decks I would play it, because the value is there. So let's just say that you need to think outside the box. Gideon's Reproaches probably has more chance to actually see constructed play at higher events. It's very close to Immolating Glare, which might be a bit better, but Reproach is actually better in the aggressive tempo deck. Because this way, you can trick them with your attacks, and let's just say that killing a blocker with this is actually relevant. Because Immolating Glare only kills the attacking creatures. Drawn is interesting because it's a flyer with first strike, and if unanswered, it's all those free twos. Doesn't eat the 2/3s though, but then it just stops them. And then in the right deck, she grows much bigger and also pumps your team. So if you're on some tokens plan, I think she should see more play now. Both now, well, it's just an example of a card that could be interesting for some aggro mid-range deck against control. I'm not saying it's an amazing, but it's something to inspire you to think outside the box once again. Bring to light, well, think about it. I think mana is pretty good right now, and then you can find with it Fumigate, for example, if you cast it on 5, right? You have Aetherborn and Spire of Industry. If you tweak your deck a little bit to make sure that you actually can reliably cast it on 5, or at least on 4, then if you can reliably make it on 4, then you can cast Yahini's Expertise, so you can -3 the board, which is still quite right, and you can actually play something else on top of that. So all those expertise are actually really awesome with Green to Light. You just need to survive to 5 mana, and then you can do whatever the hell you want. You can sweep the board and, let's say, cast Nissa Liliana, whatever Planeswalker, or you can bounce 3 creatures from, let's say, black-green, all those hulked up guys, and then you can cast a 4 mana Planeswalker like a Gideon or a Nahiri or whatever. It's just so sick. Definitely worth a consideration again. Dim of Dark Schemes, well, triple black is tough, but if you're playing something like a blue-black control, I would consider this guy, because you do run a lot of duels in that deck. You pretty much have to because of Grasp and double blue counterspells and stuff like that. So I don't think triple black is an issue in that deck, especially on turn 6. And then you have a 5/5 flyer that can reanimate their stuff next turn, I would say, in the relevant scenario. And it also sweeps the board. It's not going to kill everything, but then again, you have a good body that actually can efficiently block Hardokirin if there isn't an emblem or something like that. Just number crunching here, sort of. Here's Great Champion. Well, it has Flash, it has Lifelink. It pumps your team and gives them Lifelink. So let's just say that while people were brewing red-white humans and black-white humans, the color combo for humans that will probably just eat Mardu for breakfast is probably green-white, maybe just because of this one card. It's just so ridiculous. They can't ever like tap out, and if you have 4 up, they always have to play around that because it just destroys them. I think if you don't have the removal ready for it, basically you would have to have disintegration there or something like that, because fatal push wouldn't kill it before the value is obtained, basically. So I was talking about Tamiya. I think it's something to consider. Another removal sweeper to consider is Sabotage. Instant speed Radiant Flames feels like something that has to be at least considered in this metagame. Then for humans, I think Stenkrn Stable could be interesting. Among other things, it actually enables Fury Tempers and stuff like that, or Judgment and so on. So there are those things. Also, think about the Nahiri's Wrath as another way to, abuse Madness, Graveyard, and clear the board, or clear Planeswalkers, for example. Pariah is probably insane in some of those kinda graveyard strategies with Haunted Dead, or it could be just interesting in some black-green shell with the newest Constrictor, just the green snake, not the black-green one, and then also coupled with stuff like Catacomb Sifter. So if you tune your black-green deck a little bit, you can probably painlessly incorporate Pariah in there somewhere in your 75. Then let's speak about Railier again. Not only you can, make sure that you have something good to bring back with the Nose Constrictor, you can, I don't know, sometimes maybe use even Stern Constable, especially if you're green-white humans. Actually, yeah, green-white humans now look even more and more interesting, especially because you can even cast or bring back Herbalist and kind of ramp up a little bit, or at least kind of have a free creature, a free 2/2 that just pumps everything or gets pumped. Growth coupled with Railer, that's not for the dedicated tribal human deck, that's for some value grindy deck. And you have Black Implement for control matchups, and then you get even more value with the Railier, or you can have this concoction, sit there and play, and wait till they, attack with Harlequin, or they pump something with Gearhulk, then you kill it. Then on your turn, let's say you can crack, have a Wind Wilds, or sack the Unbridled Growth, cast Reveler, get Concoction back. Now you have this kind of Seal of Doom once again in play. I think it's awesome. That wraps it up for this time. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to leave any feedback or questions in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Good luck until the next sale. See ya.